Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be getting back to doing some work on my 1985 Volkswagen Vanagon Wolfsburg edition. So the next part that I'm going to be working on is the brake system. The plan is to replace all the brake lines, rebuild the front calipers, rebuild the drum brakes, and replace the master cylinder, as well as all the switches and everything that needs to be replaced. The brake lines I did find some rust spots in a few of the brake lines, which I did repair if you saw in my previous video. But right now I'm just going to replace everything that there is. And one of the reasons why I'm replacing everything is, in the previous video, I repaired the rust spot on one of the brake lines, and then I was driving around on the van during my test drives once I got it home, and at a red light I pressed the brake and it held for a little bit, and then it just fell to the floor and the van started rolling, so I had to get back home using just the e-brake. So there's definitely either air in the lines, a leak somewhere, or something's wrong. So I'm going to be working on figuring all that out. So here I'm just demonstrating how pushing the brakes doesn't work. It only bites slightly at the very end right here. So once you move the dash cover and the speedometer, you have the brake reservoir and then the master cylinder, and then you have these two are the brake switches, which my brake lights don't turn off. It seems like one of the brake switches is bad, so one of my switches does seem to be bad, because even when the car is off, brake lights are on, and that's an intermittent issue and it drains my battery. So chances are one of the switches is bad as well, so I'm going to be replacing everything. So here are all the parts that I'm going to be needing. Here's the new brake master cylinder. I am going to be reusing the reservoir from the old one, but this has all the seals that I need. These are the two brake switches. Mine are the two-prong ones. Some vans may come with three, so got to use whichever ones you have. And then I have the rubber hoses that connect to the hard lines and to the calipers, and this is for the fronts and the backs. And then this is the brake line kit I found online. They already have all the connectors on them, so I don't need to reflare or anything. The only thing I do need to do is bend them to the correct shape. I did find a few brake line kits that they didn't require any bending. They already pre-bent, but those were like about $250 to $300. I paid $50 for this kit that was already flared with the connections on it. I just needed to do bending. So originally I was planning to just buy copper lines that I would reflare myself and put the connections and bend them, just because copper lines are easier to bend. However, that would have cost me a little over $100, and so I decided that I'd rather just pay the $50 already flared, just because flaring is a pain in the butt sometimes. And since I don't need to flare any of these, just bend them, I thought that would make more sense. So I got rid of as much fluid as I could. There's still a little bit left, because the van is at an incline and it's not getting to the tube in the back, which is the one that pushes the fluid into the system versus the return. So what I'm going to do now is just unhook the lines. You have to be careful. It's most likely going to leak a little bit, so I put some rags underneath here. I still need to do that, and then I'm going to unbolt it. There is two bolts. One's right here and one is behind this line right here. There's another bolt that needs to be removed, and then you can remove the master cylinder. And while I struggle to remove these bolts and the master cylinder with one hand, I wanted to share a quick Bible verse. In Proverbs chapter 19 verse 21, it says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." Another thing I wanted to mention, when I was removing the speedometer, this is where the cable for the speed goes in, and it broke. They're supposed to be, this piece is supposed to be connected to the white clip right here. So I do have reason to believe that the 79,000 original miles may not be correct. I don't know if I broke it when I was taking it off or if it was already broken, because these are very fragile and break easily. So instead of disconnecting right here, it broke at the cable. So while I'm replacing the brake lines and everything, I will replace this cable as well. Yeah. So back to this. Now I have the bolts. Now I need to take these brake lines and from under the vehicle, pull them out. So now that I have the master cylinder off, I need to get it up in here. I'm under the vehicle in the front. Under here, there's a gasket up there. There's a very low light, so you won't be able to see it. But once I remove the gasket, I should be able to pull these brake lines out, as well as the speedometer cable. Sorry, I wanted to make a correction. This is not the speedometer cable. This one right here is. And it goes to this box right here, which we're going to be bypassing. That one's like I believe it's called like an EGR box, which just tracks until you hit, I believe it's like 30,000 miles, and then a sensor goes off inside, and then you just have to come here and press the button to reset it, which was something to do with the California emissions and like stuff like that. But I'm gonna be bypassing it because it's not necessary. It doesn't do anything at all. So if you remove the plastic covering right here, you'll find that the brake lines go in here, and here's the gasket. I found it easier to just push this gasket through from the bottom, and then remove the gasket here, and then I'll be able to get the brake lines traced out through there. So after tracing the brake lines, we have one section connecting right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Right there, into a three-way split. And then another one goes up through here and connects right here. So I'm going to undo those and remove those brake lines first. So at this point, removing the brake lines, I did have to use fire quite often. I did want to mention, when using fire, be very careful with the brake lines, just because I did have a few of the brake lines actually like explode a little bit. So yeah, just a heads up. So I got most of the fuel lines out right here. And I had to cut a bunch of the connections because they were rusted and stuck. So I had to cut them, especially from these T's. And then once I removed the T's, I was able to get those off. But I ran into an issue. I laid out all my new kit lines to see where they're supposed to go, and realized that the kit doesn't actually include the main line that goes from the front of the van to the back. And that's actually one of the lines that required me to cut the line. So I can't reuse this line, and it's not part of the kit. So I can't put everything back on the van right now because I'm missing one line. So I'm going to try to put the van tank back on, roll it off using the e-brake, and then roll it into the garage so it doesn't roll away. And then buy a new line. Once the new line comes in, I'll be able to continue the work. So I did run into the issue with the brake line missing the one that goes from the pressure regulator to the rear T. Probably should have done a better job at reading the description and realized I didn't have that brake line in the kit. So while I wait to figure out what to do with that, I'm probably going to end up buying copper lines and flaring them and everything myself. But I'll see. I'm going to do some research. So I'm going to end the video on that note for now. I'm probably going to jump in and do the other work while I wait for the new brake lines. Probably going to rebuild the calipers and the drum brakes while I wait. But I'll see. I'll see how all that goes. So thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. God bless.